Hi, my name is Sierra, and I will be addressing the journal article Challenging Behaviors in Students with Intellectual Disabilities, the Role of Individual and Classmates' Communication Skills. And the authors are V. Hoffman and C. M. Mueller. So, the article overview. The outcome of special education classes is really to help each student thrive to the best of their ability, especially when they transition into adulthood. This study uses a longitudinal concept with two measurement points across one school year, and 1,125 students were measured by teacher reports for challenging behavior and as well as their communication skills. So I want to talk about the author's perspective. So the study was conducted to really understand how communication between students is linked to challenging behaviors within a special education classroom. Furthermore, for children and adults with ID intellectual disabilities, communicative and behavioral difficulties can sometimes co-occur. And as you can see, I put an image of verbal prompts, please, thank you. We do see a lot of that in the classroom because especially some kids really are verbal. And maybe they don't know what it says, they can't read it, but they know, okay, shh, that means to be quiet. Okay, clap, let's clap. That means, let's clap for our friends. So, some children just learn by visual. They learn, they may not be great doing things verbally, they learn things visually. And regarding individuals without intellectual disabilities, there is supported evidence that poor communication skills are linked with challenging behaviors more so than children and adults with intellectual disabilities. And I also want to talk about how they conducted, how they measured the children. So they went through domains and points such as, behaviors. So what they saw, which constituted as a challenging behavior. Now, for one point or one domain was impulsive. So maybe the child reacts before thinking. For instance, maybe a child grabs their pencil by accident and the child automatically kicks them or throws something at them. Another domain that they use in measurement is self-absorbed behaviors. For example, hand waving. So maybe they constantly talk to another child and they always try to get this child's attention and they do a lot of hand waving in the child's face, or they do it to the teacher to try to get their attention. So another domain in the measurement was anxiety. And anxiety can be worried, and for instance, I've seen this a lot, especially with visual schedules. For instance, maybe at 11:30 it's specials. They know that they have Spanish. Maybe something happened where there's no specials. Specials will take place in the classroom, or maybe it's raining, so we have to go an alternate route to get to the specials classroom. And that can, trigger a panic attack where now they're worried, they feel that their day is messed up, and, they may have an outburst. Another domain in anxiety is easily crying. So a lot of times maybe they cry easily, maybe they have a friend that they always play with, and one day the friend's not here or the friend doesn't want to play with them, and their world may be shattering. They're like, oh my God, my friend doesn't want to play, and so they may cry and they may feel bad the whole day about it. Another domain in the measurement was communication disturbances. So that could be echoes. So maybe a child repeats phrases that they hear the teacher uses, or they repeat something that their friend says, or another child sitting next to them says, and maybe they talk to themselves. Um, and then another part of the measurement was problems relating socially. Um, so that's following the subgroup of underactive. So maybe, during Go Noodle, they don't participate. During PE, when you have to move your full body, they don't want to participate in that. And then there's another part of that domain, which is when, maybe there is a Go Noodle, maybe it's dancing, and the child refuses to participate, and would rather sit and watch the other kids. And then the last domain that they had was called others. And others is usually, children, and sometimes it happens, especially with a big class size. You may get one or two. They may have to wear headphones. They get distressed when hearing certain noises or sounds, especially when it's loud. I know the trigger for even children that don't have ID is, the toilet. Flushing the toilet, it's loud, it's noisy, and a lot of them get very scared to, touch the toilet handle to flush. So that's one thing that, as a volunteer, I've always had to work on in the classroom with the children. And there's another domain that's not talked about very often, is children who are disliked by other children. It's not talked about, but it does happen inside the classroom, where you do have, literally one side, the left side, everybody's kind of mingling, or they're off to the side, and you have one child that's, kind of by themselves. And so that does happen. So, the reactions. Data collection was taken by measuring the challenging behaviors using the German version of the Developmental Behavior Checklist for Teachers. Factors to analyze group items into subgroups helps the staff to estimate occurrences and the severity of each behavior. After looking at the factors I have seen displayed by students dealing with those challenging behaviors, I realized how important, the fact of communication and how it's enforced by the teacher. The communication is between two parties, and when one person is not heard or understood, this can lead to challenging behaviors where other professionals, like the autism coach or RBT, are now called upon to de-escalate. And I have seen this happen where, it may have started off with something minor, but maybe, the adult or maybe the teacher cannot understand, what the child wants, because they're having a hard time communicating. And so then, other professionals start showing up, and it could have been over something very minor, like they wanted to use that that color pencil, that orange color pencil, so I have seen that happen. So, implications to practice. It is noted throughout the investigation that intellectual disability students who had their communication level adapted that was similar with their communication style responded positively, which led for less de-escalation techniques. So what this translates into, for some students, maybe they have certain phrases that they use all the time. That's how they communicate. That's their communication style. And when you get, you go down to their level and you communicate the way they communicate, they're more adaptive and they listen a lot better. Now, while de-escalation is a skill to calm down, a huge factor that a lot of people don't talk about is prevention. And I think it's This is needed, which allows educators to observe patterns in which the way a particular student communicates. So I put this picture which says, don't worry that your children never listen to you, worry that they are always watching you. And I've seen this a lot, especially, in elementary school. I've definitely seen children, they don't seem like they're listening, communicating with them, but they're watching. And it's the same a lot of times. They maybe don't listen to their parents, or they are not responsive to their parents, but they watch everything their parents do, and they hear everything their parents do, and they do bring it into the classroom. And then the last point I want to make is classroom communication skills have a moderating effect on the students in the classroom. And what this really means, which as I was reading the article, I was like thrilled. I was like, wow, because I never knew that it basically serves as a reference point for both students, whether they have different diagnoses, whether one has, intellectual disabilities and the other one, has a different, diagnoses. It serves as a reference point for both parties. And it's extremely important that from day one, the educator basically gives that expectation that, hey, these are the guidelines to follow. These are the rules for everyone to follow, so that, you can watch two students kind of, bicker it out, and then one student points, no, look at the rules. The rules are over there. And you can sort of watch, their brain work. But it was just really cool to see that, they can work, they can solve a conflict by themselves, and having the rules displayed, visually serves as a moderating effect for the students in the classroom. So these are the references for challenging behavior in students with intellectual disabilities. The journal really delved deeper for me in how a student communicates and what the educator's role in, because a lot of times I've seen outbursts for small things, and those small things are very important to that student. So it should be treated, as having value, which I do see, sometimes it doesn't happen, and the child, is there thinking, you don't value, what I'm crying about, or you don't value what I want. And, it's also about allowing the student to realize, I do value what you want, but you also have an expectation. So what you value, you can't get right now, because those are the rules. So I really like this journal. Thank you very much